Brooke Reilly sitting here with Jamien Jean-Baptiste, candidate for Vice President for Public Relations of the Student Government Association. Jamien, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
My first question for you is, what made you decide to run for the role of Vice President for Public Relations?
So this is a position that I've been doing for the past year now, and kind of the goals that I had aligned for this past year, I wanted to expand upon them a little bit. I found myself during quarantine researching different ways of kind of putting out that messaging and advertising. And I really wanted to challenge myself to go above and beyond even more this year with what I did last year.
And obviously you were in this role for the past year and you've been on SGA for the past few years. Can you elaborate on some of the things that you've done throughout your time on SGA that makes you prepared for this role?
Right, so this past year with PR, I've implemented some things that kind of go beyond what's just written in our governing documents of what my duties are. So pretty much my duties include things like, updating the social media and reporting general updates and affairs to student media. But something that I try to implement is programming a little bit. So I've programmed monthly events in the student government suite to increase approachability between student government and the actual students. That's something that I know is a big criticism of the student government space, is that it's not always approachable. Something else that I did is I worked with the ad hoc committee to implement Bobcat Fridays, which is going to be a new tradition starting next fall, hopefully when we get back on campus, where students will wear their KU apparel and gear every Friday to kind of just have a day of spirit and pride. And then I've also implemented Bobcat of the Month, which is another tradition in which we recognize outstanding students in the undergraduate community. So just things like that.
And being that you've already served in this role for a year, what kind of changes would you make or improvements to the role, do you think?
In terms of changes, after reflecting with my committee, I think there was definitely there were general oversights that kind of occurred when we would go about just like posting and recognizing people. And I think something that I want to change specifically is recognizing more initiatives and more SGA members. I think in the past, the role has kind of been limited to the duties that are written on paper, which is good. And those conversations in our meetings would focus solely on those like posts and things. So it was mainly that was the main focus. But now, since we're kind of doing so much, it's kind of taken away from that original goal there. So I think I want to kind of fix that and work with my committee to post more and recognize more people.
And given the current situation, obviously everything's virtual right now, and we might be like this for a while, obviously throughout the summer and potentially into the fall. What are your plans to start this role if elected into the position online, and if it does continue longer?
So I found that during these circumstances, the role of PR is actually elevated a little bit, because as opposed to being on campus and having direct contact with all members of student government, right now PR is to an extent the only contact that students have with student government, because it's all through social media, it's all digital. So if this were to remain the circumstances that we're under until next semester, I think I would look into finding just new ways of virtually engaging students in terms of programming and really getting their, soliciting their thoughts and opinions on campus, the new changes that are going on, and really relaying that information over to the other executive board members to hopefully find a new way of making this our new normal if it comes to that.
And if reelected into this position, what are your goals for the coming year?
So I guess it's important to mention my goals for the past year. So what I kind of looked at was, one, I wanted to have the highest voter turnouts in the past two elections. So for the fall elections, we ended up having, in terms of percentage wise, it was the highest percentage in the past 10 years or so. And then the second goal that I had was to improve relations with student media, which I think was something that I accomplished because, there was always just like a kind of way of a liaison between both parties in terms of advertising and putting things out to the student body. And then the last one was increasing our following on social media. just to really get as many people as we can to really know what's going on with the student body. I think I'd want to keep those goals. And in addition to that, I guess I would want to try to implement new traditions for PR that the following PR after this could possibly take on. Because I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that the previous vice president for PR before me did an excellent job of leaving a solid foundation for me to pick up. And I think I'd want to really emulate that for the next VP for PR.
And my last question for you is, what makes you the best candidate for Vice President for Public Relations?
I think the experience is what really sets me apart. Like the fact that I've done this past year, I have an idea of what works and what doesn't work. And that's something that you can only get with experience. Like I know the different ways of engaging students, and I know that if we post something that's just text on our social media, students don't engage with it as much as if we actually post people. So just like little nitpicky things like that that come with doing it once, I'm ready to kind of take them on again.
Well, thank you very much for joining me, Jamien, and be sure to stay up to date with all of the candidates on our website at q30tv.com/SGA 2020 elections, and follow us on social media at Q30 News.